There wasn't a specific point that was a bottom for me. There was a period where I'd been kicked out of everything, I'd been fired from everything, in and out of jail, and not really knowing what to do or where to go. I was riding along the street, pedaling along, and 2 state patrol cars go along, and I didn't think anything of it. Got back to about a block away from where I had my stuff. Those patrol cars were at that place. They were raiding the place. At that point, I'd been in and out of jail a few times, and it wasn't that I didn't want to go to jail, which I didn't, but I didn't want to live like that anymore. I had no place to go. I couldn't go retrieve my belongings. So I just kind of wandered around for a couple of days after that. In a way, the people who initiated my recovery were the people I was hanging out with. I didn't want to be like them anymore. I didn't want to. I wanted to move away from them.
The most important thing in my recovery process has been personal responsibility. That I'm the one that needs to do the work.
One of the most important things in my recovery is to not take myself so seriously.
Coming to terms that I had a mental illness, but it didn't have to define me. I could define me. And that was my very first step.
When I realized that things were getting better was after the medication, after I got the shot of haloperidol, the medication. It brought me around just like that. The voices were gone, and I felt like participating again. I didn't feel like withdrawing, being isolated.
There wasn't really a catalyst towards my recovery until the thing that I think really brought it down to earth was I remember waking up one morning in the emergency room. I was there a lot. It just kind of occurred to me that I didn't want to do this anymore. This wasn't what I wanted, and this wasn't where I was supposed to be, and it wasn't like everything changed overnight from there, but that was the moment when I really thought there's something way better out there for me, and I'm really going to start working it.
I also had a time when I had lowered myself, the caliber of the company I was keeping, and it finally, that was falling faster and I could lower my standards, and I found that other people were pointing at me saying, at least I'm not as bad as that guy. We like to be independent and have our own choices, and I wanted to do things my way, and some of the things that my way wasn't the most healthy way of coping with things. I was being treated for depression and taking antidepressants and continued to drink and smoke pot, and you know, some people can do those things, but it was interfering with my mental health. I decided I had to quit all of that.
What was the kind of turning point? Was there one single instance that kind of where you started going in the direction of recovery?
Well, I had gotten in a fight with this female and I won. But I got caught by the police, and I went to jail for just one day, and they had this new program called PR or whatever, and they PR'd me, which means that if I didn't get in trouble for 3 months, that I would not have charges on my record, and I wouldn't have to pay a bunch of fines and stuff. And so I was like, I gotta stay out of trouble. And then my boyfriend, he introduced me to Youth in Action, and I was just like, you know, this could be a good outlet for me while I figure out what I want to do with my life. So I went to the first meeting, and, you know, people understood me. They, you know, understood my story. I felt like I wasn't being judged, things like that. And it was kind of freeing for me to, like, you know, move forward and get past all that negativity.
Yes, my recovery required a new everything, absolutely everything. The thing that had to change the most was my perception that I was in control. Any idea that I had in my mind that I was in charge or doing anything right, I was way off. I was way off. Had to let go of that.
The most important action I took in my recovery was to take medication.
The most important action that I took in my recovery was to stop drinking and using drugs.
To show up.
Well, I think first of all, there's the need for recognition that there is help that is out there.
I think really a key is having support, having a support network around you, and that's why the use of peer specialists and peer support people has been very helpful.
Regaining a sense of hope as you learn about the disorder, as you connect with other peers, as you connect with other parents.
It's very important that there is self-awareness. So when someone is in recovery, they are self-aware of their triggers, of their needs.
The medication helped, and that got me on the road to recovery. Work therapy, part of your stay there was participating in work at the hospital. Eventually I took classes in printing, and when I got out of the hospital, I got a job at a print shop based on my experiences at the hospital.
All of us want to matter. All of us want to love and be loved. All of us want to have a space that we live in that is comfortable and reflects us. I think every adult wants to be doing something effective and powerful to impact the world. And recovery is all about each person discovering what the version of that is in their lives. And so as I see people recover, I see them going from being focused on their medication and their symptoms, being fretful of the night, being fretful of the future, and instead I see them much more interested in what they can create, what they're doing, who they're making laugh, who they're touching with their story.
At first in my recovery, I had to kind of just work enough to get by. And I was in a job that I'd been in for 13 years, and I stayed there and continued to work to be able to survive. In my recovery, look at different strengths that I have and different things that I'd like to do. I'm a peer support specialist here, which means I get to use my story and my experience in recovery and the successes that I've had and the kinds of things that have worked for me. I get to use that to inspire hope and empower people in a similar situation.
My recovery journey started kind of from an addiction perspective, and as a result of that, I've been able to explore what I call my character defects, and I believe that every defect I have has an opposite asset side. So every defect I have, whether it's being deceitful, that becomes truthfulness. Self-centeredness becomes selflessness. In terms of my own recovery, that's what I strive for, is to have those defects removed, dealt with. I'm under no impression that I'm ever going to be flawless, but I've accepted that about myself. My recovery journey, it does not depend on me being flawless.